The Christ Letters, with enhanced narration and text. Letter 6.3. An exercise describing soul and ego. To better describe the reality of the soul and the ego, I want you to cup your hands together, fingertips touching fingertips, and wrists together, leaving a space between your cupped hands. Your hands represent the human consciousness shell of a person, the ego. The space correctly represents the soul, born of the father-mother conscious life at the moment of your conception. Whilst to human senses it appears to be nothingness, it is in fact an offshoot of the allness and wholeness of divine consciousness, out of which all created things have taken form. Your hands with the space between represent the I. Your right and left hands represent two potent forces of the magnetic ego drive. They represent forces of bonding, rejection, but at the same time, quite rightly, they are the physical representation of the physical energies known to science as magnetism, bonding, and repulsion. Bend back your right hand from the other one and visualize that you use this right hand to get what you want out of life. It represents also what your human consciousness perceives as the grasping attitude to life. Give time to this exercise and fully realize your right hand represents the magnetic pull, the bonding, the attraction, the gravity evident in all of nature. It is the source of all wanting and desiring. It is the magnetic impulse, which is always directed at getting what is necessary or greatly desired and pleasurable in life. This magnetic impulse is spiritually intended to be directed towards constructive purposes. Gaining, holding, building, achieving. Were there no other people or living things in the world, the magnetic impulse could have full sway in a personality and no harm done. It is only when other people or living creatures or other people's persons and possessions have to be taken into account that the uncontrolled magnetic impulse to attract, draw, bond, hold, possess becomes a sickness of the personality, if it is not equally balanced with the needs of all other living things. Return your hand to its original place, cupped with the left hand. Now pull back your left hand and visualize that this hand represents the magnetic impulse to repel, push away, slap, or defend yourself from any unauthorized encroachment on your property or possessions, or any attack on your character, family, or work. This left hand represents the magnetic impulse of rejection, which is spiritually intended to ensure your privacy and save your life. It is a legitimate weapon when your physical or emotional survival is at stake, always providing you remember that your every action is an electromagnetic, activity binding, repulsion blueprint in consciousness, which rebounds and externalizes eventually in the form of a similar attack on the self. The unpleasantness may be criticism from your parent, teacher, employer, and the words of self-defense which spring to mind and jump out of your mouth are ego words, wholly given to self-defense, expressing the magnetic drive of repulsion and rejection. And as your ego words of attack flare up in angry speech, so is the ego of your critic similarly threatened, and it also rises up in him or her as words of self-defense against you. What may have started out as a necessary and adult action of pointing out some error and a better way to do is frequently immediately seen by a self-centered, sensitive ego as a personal attack. What should have been a moment of growth develops into a time of conflict, anger, possibly tears, ongoing resentment, and mutual hostility. In such swift, unexpected, unnecessary ways, conflict is generated in the mind, expressed in words, even actions, and perpetuated through resentment and hatred. Remember that every activity of the mind, the mental thought, and the emotional reactions of attraction and repulsion are all consciousness energies of creativity. These consciousness energies not only create the unpleasant rebound forms, but they develop the direction of the character and even affect relationships generally and the environment. And they reduce the life vitality of the body, leading directly to a sense of physical malaise, viral infection, or long-term disease. The higher way, when under attack of any kind, a way having only constructive repercussions, is to remember you can instantly call upon divine consciousness, from which you will draw instant protection in any eventuality. But this is only possible if you can move beyond the magnetic ego drive of resistance, in the perfect assurance that divine consciousness meets your every need. Now return your left hand to its original position with the right hand. Realize that throughout this exercise, the space between your hands has remained the space. It has not been involved in any of the activity of the hands. And so is it with your soul. When your ego is busily at work, second by second, always and forever on the alert to fulfill your needs and defend you from any unpleasantness. The divine consciousness of your soul remains hidden, although it is always within you. When I was on earth, I spoke to the people about the kingdom of heaven. I said it was within you. So it is. It is your soul. It is the haven of equilibrium of the divine consciousness, which gave you being as a future man or woman. I greatly long to be able to put into your minds a broad view of your source of being, to enable you to perceive a little more clearly your beginnings, from whence you have come. You must also understand at all times that when I speak a word of description of that which is truly unknowable, I am myself standing in the very highest infinitesimal frequencies of vibration on the very edge of the great universal equilibrium, out of which all things have drawn their being and taken on their form. If I speak of a mountain, a picture will come to your mind, but you will not know the immensity of its structure, the endurance of its rock, its ravines and peaks and caverns, the snow which caps it in all seasons, the waterfalls cascading into pools when its glaciers melt. For you to gain a glimpse of the grandeur of the mountain, I would have to go into a detailed description of its every nook and cranny. Even after the most detailed verbal explanations, you would still have only imagined mental pictures to draw on. You would still not know the mountain. If I speak of a hurricane, I can bring to your mind trees bowing to the ground, bent by the tremendous winds, walls crumbling, rafters broken, bricks and roofs flying, windows shattered, cars overturned, great trees uprooted. But you will never know the force and the noise of that wind, the crash of falling masonry, or the terror it generates in people's hearts who have to endure it, until you have experienced it for yourself. And so is it when I try to describe for you that which brought all creation into being. You can only guess, not know. It will only be after you have experienced all I have spoken about for yourself that you will begin to gain some idea of what I am trying to tell you. Therefore, let no one who reads my letters dispute with another or deny the truth of what I am teaching you, or refute my words. For I tell you truly that you cannot fully know what you have not experienced. It is only those who will follow me in acceptance and faith into daily meditation, the cleansing of consciousness, and impassioned prayer for enlightenment, who will eventually gain ever deepening glimpses, then experiences of what creation itself may access, divine consciousness.